Welcome everyone to Neverwinter on PC. My name is Rainer and today's video will be a guide to the Crown of Keldegonn mechanics. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you would like to see more information and videos about Neverwinter, hit the subscribe button. So here I am with the first video on the new trial. In this video I'm going to dive into the mechanics of the enemies and what the correct strategy is to properly handle said mechanics. In this video I will not go over the sequencing of each of the phases, since that is very much subject to change, and I will pick that up in a later video. Obviously this video will contain spoilers. If you want to try out the trial without any prior knowledge, you have been warned. Let's start with the mechanics which are introduced in Phase 1. Claw Swipe is the main Dracolich attack used in most of the phases. It does a pretty big hit of up to 2.3 million base damage, depending on your stats of course. The hit is an AoE attack in a 90-degree cone in front of the Dracolich. Next to the damage, you also get 2 debuffs when hit. The first debuff is a damage down debuff, which, as you can guess, lowers your outgoing damage. The second debuff is called Rending Bleed. Rending Bleed is a stacking debuff that will continuously hit you for a flat 2% of your hit points. Every time you get hit by Claw Swipe, you get an additional stack, and after 15 seconds, a stack is removed. Stacks can also be removed with cleansing powers. Rending Bleed typically is the biggest incoming damage source for tanks and needs to be controlled by the tanks swapping aggro whenever too many stacks have been collected. Interesting to note is that Rending Bleed is not decreased by any stats. Even defense and deflect do absolutely nothing, but you can shield the damage with your shield power. Also, while the Claw Swipe damage can be avoided by iframing the hit, you will still get the same debuffs, so just leave those hits to the tanks. The Necrotic Miasma mechanic is when everyone except for the tanks gets a red splash underneath them. This splash follows the player. After 5 seconds, the splash turns into a purple mist around the player, which damages any player in it for about 250,000 damage per second. Mists stay for quite a while, and you will have a lot of them on the map at the same time. It is very important that the mists do not overlap with each other, not with the mists that players are placing at that moment, but also with mists that have been placed earlier. When mists overlap with each other, they become empowered. This is visualized by the mists becoming bright purple, with energy swirling around it. Whenever a mist is empowered, it doesn't do 250,000 damage per second, but over 1 million base damage per second. Getting hit by an empowered miasma also drains all of your AP. From time to time, a purple ball spawns where Valindra is, and in Phase 1 she is on the dragon. This ball will move to the player with a red splash underneath him and 2 arrows pointing down. This mechanic is called Necro Bolt Impact. The base damage of this attack is around 800,000, but the damage is multiplied by the amount of players hit inside the AoE. Also important to note is that this attack can be intercepted by other players, and that also changes the location of the AoE. So make sure to move out of the way when needed. This attack can easily wipe the whole DPS healer group in case it doesn't get respected. Tail Lash is when the Dracolich swipes its tail behind him. You can see this coming when the tail first moves all the way to the left. It's going to come back fast. This attack is a cone behind the Dracolich, so it can easily be avoided by being a little to the side. instead of being directly behind the Dracolich. Tail Lash does up to around 900,000 base damage, and it will knock the players back which are hit. It also gives you a slow debuff, which slows your character down. You can iframe this attack if you happen to be inside the targeted area. There is no red area for this attack, so you will have to focus on the Dracolich to see this one coming. Lightning Breath is a quite small cone attack in front of the Dracolich. It is marked in a red area and you have quite a bit of time to get out of it. When you do get hit, it will hit you for up to 2 million damage in case of a crit. The Dragon Breath also pushes you back if you are inside the area. The Bite attack is a bit difficult to see coming, but it's another AoE attack the Dracolich does in a cone in front of him every now and then. The Bite attack itself does up to 1.2 million base damage, and just like Claw Swipe, it gives 2 debuffs. After a tank is bitten, it is very advisable to tank swap, since the debuffs are no joke. The first debuff is called Caustic Poison. It lasts about 18 seconds and it hits for up to 225,000 damage per second. It, as far as I know, cannot be cleansed. The second debuff is called Shock. It also lasts 18 seconds, also ticks for up to 225,000 damage per second, and it also cannot be cleansed, so I'm a bit surprised that these are exactly the same. After the Bite, if the boss HP is below 75%, 4 supports will spawn around the Dracolich. These supports do 2 things. First of all, they buff the Dracolich, giving it decreased incoming damage and increased outgoing damage. And second of all, as long as one support is alive, everyone in the arena will get an AoE damage over time of up to 260,000 base damage per tick. This AoE is called Empowered Draconic Aura. This aura will remain for 5 seconds after the last support is killed. Make sure to focus these supports as soon as possible, because their damage is potentially deadly in combination with other attacks. When attacking the supports, do not leave the miasma clouds on top of these supports, especially the empowered versions, since that will make it very difficult for melee DPS to take the supports down. The supports can sometimes also be hard to hit because of the Dracolich hitbox. This problem can be contained by moving the dragon away once the supports have spawned. These are the attacks you will see in phase 1, until the Dracolich reaches 20% HP. At that point, it flies away. We have to use our newly acquired grappling hooks to chase after Valindra and the Dracolich. This grappling adventure across 4 islands actually has a timer of 90 seconds. If after 90 seconds the group hasn't progressed through the teleporter, everyone will get AoE blasted until they are dead. There is no resurrection possible from this death, so make sure to be quick. This mechanic is added to make sure that groups don't linger at the teleporter to get rid of their resurrection sickness. So here we are in phase 2. Valindra stepped off the dragon. Attacking her is pointless though, since she will reflect any damage you do to her. The base damage of this reflection is 100,000, and she will take no damage at all. This mechanic is called Valindra Shield Damage Reflection. Rolls right off your tongue. This shield will disappear for 30 seconds whenever the Dracolich is brought down to 75% HP and flies off into the air. At that point, make sure to be ready with your debuffs to burst Valindra down. This phase only ends when she is dead. While the shield is down, she will use the Necrotic Bolt impact mechanic very frequently, so be careful not to wipe the team here. While the group is fighting the Dracolich, the off-tank should keep Valindra away from the dragon so that the DPS don't kill themselves with AoE attacks on the Dracolich. Every now and then, Valindra will move her focus off the tank that has her aggroed and send the beam towards a random DPS or healer. This beam will do 2 to 3 million damage spread across the people who are in the area. So make sure to huddle up. The soak beam damage mechanic will hit a total of 3 times with 3 seconds in between each hit. If the person who is targeted dies, Valindra stops charging this mechanic. Necrotic Bindings is the basic attack Valindra will do to the person who is aggro. This should be the off tank. The attack will do up to 1 million base damage. Force Breath is a wide angle version of the Lightning Breath, but now it doesn't shoot lightning, but instead it is a massive pushback. Tanks can block this push. Apart from the pushback, it also does up to 400,000 damage. When the dragon is up in the air and about to land, Valindra heals the dragon back to full health. This mechanic is called Ascent. The Ascent mechanic shows us that the dragon has 658 million HP total. After the dragon has been in the air for 30 seconds, it is going to calm down again, and it wants a soft landing. To ensure this, it picks a random player to land on. This is visualized by a big red splat that follows the player. Make sure you're the only one that gets hit. It does up to 700,000 base damage. Once Valindra is defeated, she disappears into her phylactery. Now it's time to destroy said phylactery. This is what we call Phase 3. After the Dracolich has landed, it will sound a mighty roar. This roar will knock players back and do up to 600,000 damage. But the knockback is the most dangerous part. Make sure to not get pushed off the island. Every time the Dracolich roars, it will gain a buff stack, making the next pushback stronger. This will continue until the Dracolich is fully defeated. Red areas will spawn on the floor, sometimes fully random, and sometimes making a circle. After 3 seconds, lightning strikes come down in the designated areas. When hit, it will knock you back, and it does up to 1.5 million base damage. Tail Swipe seems to be the exact same thing as Tail Lash, but under a different power name. I'm not sure if there is a difference. I am not 100% sure about the source of this mechanic, but it seems that everyone that at this point gets hit by any mechanic will also get a debuff called Rancid Stench. This mechanic is a damage over time that does 20 to 40,000 damage per second. The phylactery is somewhere at the edge, but it doesn't sit still. Every time when 25% of its hit points are removed, the phylactery jumps to a new location. If the 25% are not removed in a certain time, the phylactery also jumps to a new location. This mechanic is called Teleport Jump. Make sure to get it down as soon as possible, since this is the only way to progress into the final phase. In Phase 3, ads start spawning to assist the Dracolich. The ads are Thay Archers, Skeletons, Hulks, Bone Drakes, Bone Golems, and Gravehounds. Some of them have heavy CC, so make sure you keep the numbers under control. In Phase 4, another mechanic is added to the Dracolich's arsenal. This mechanic is called Spin Attack. The Dracolich will make a full spin around its center, knocking everyone back and doing up to 700,000 base damage. Fling is another mechanic that is added in Phase 4. It does up to 2 million base damage and knocks back the person with aggro. Those were all of the mechanics of the new trial. I hope it helps to get a grasp of what to do. I have a couple of last remarks, because there have been a lot of questions about what enemy type is applicable in this trial. Basically, Valindra counts as undead, and the Dracolich counts as a dragon. In Phase 1, when Valindra is riding the Dracolich, the combination counts as undead. Dragon buffs will not work in that phase. So that is it for the video. If you have any remarks on this video or any suggestions on what to investigate next, feel free to leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.